just sitting here reminiscing.
Hey, first of all, we should just say that today is, May the 30th, 2011. Tell some favorite grandpa and grandma stories and little vignettes as we can think of them.
Well, you talk about discipline. One of the things was that Pop used to work the 12 noon to 6 o'clock shift most of the time. He worked other shifts because he had to, but that was really his shift. And he would get off the bus at 20 after 6 down at Glenwood Avenue in front of the beer joint, come straight home, and Mom would have stuff ready to eat. But we would be playing baseball in the field out there, and he would whistle. No, we don't want to go home. We want to keep playing. And then he would whistle again, and by God, you better be there on the second whistle, because
If you had a half of a swing of a bat,
yeah,
you might have dropped that bat.
yeah. But we always tested him a little bit. We didn't go necessarily on the first whistle, but he had his own whistle that he could whistle either with his fingers or just his lips, something that we could hear. But we knew that on that second one, we better get home.
But you knew that the discipline was going to be pretty strong if you didn't do what he wanted to have done. He ran the roost. He was the boss.
Did you ever get really disciplined?
I was never killed, but maybe close to it.
My worst one was when I was in high school. I agreed to go to a party with one of the guys in the class. He had a car, and he picked me up and drove, and the party lasted till 3 in the morning.
Wow.
And when I got home, I got 3 in the morning's worth of discipline. But I mean, I couldn't get home because I didn't have a way, but I mean, I've never been out, much past dark.
Yeah.
But 3 in the morning coming home, and boy, he was waiting.
They had rules, and especially Pop, he had certain rules, and you knew that you better never break that rule.
I got in real trouble with Pop once. When we were probably almost teenagers or something, Pop had a lot of trouble with his prostate. He was in pain all the time. He may have even been in the service then. But
That was a sciatic nerve.
no, it was
He
prostate.
couldn't walk.
He couldn't walk. He was prostate.
I always thought it was a sciatic nerve.
And he was walking down the street, really humped over,
Right.
almost sideways. And I got the idea to imitate him. And as soon as he got close to me, whap, it knocked me across the street. Because I was making fun of him, and I guess I was making fun of him, but I didn't.
Supposed to be in a funny way.
He took it personal.
The one thing that I always remember, Pop was not a tool man, but what tools he had were like gold. And if you ever took a tool outside to do something and left it outside in the grass, and he found it, you're gonna be wearing that tool. That's all there to it. And he just thought that that's the worst thing you can do is abuse his tools. And he didn't have he didn't have any more tools in a box about this big.
And they were all junk, but
Yeah,
he did remarkable things with them.
right.
In fact, I still have some of them. I suppose you guys still have
I've
them.
got a couple. But that was the whole story of the tools, because it was a perpetual remodeling job,
Oh
a
yeah.
home improvement job. from the word go. He would, starting in the basement, when it was a dirt floor, and I think you may have been in the service at that time. We actually had a dirt floor when we were kids, and he and a couple other guys got concrete and they poured it, and then the basement walls were just tile, and they leaked, and somehow or other he built a little wall about 2 inches, and they poured concrete down there, and that kept the water out the rest of the time there.
You would always have to remark, for a virtually uneducated, in effect ignorant person, he had more smarts than you could shake a stick at.
Yeah.
Yep.
He would tackle anything, but where in the hell he got,
Yeah. He should have been in business for himself doing something,
yeah.
and I think that he would have,
I tell you, the one that I always go back to that blew my mind, this wintertime when the water line froze at the house, and I got the plumber from down at the building, and I told him the problem. He said, well, yeah, I'll come down and hook up our generator. And they hook up the 2 lines from the generator up to the water line, they can heat it and thaw it out. So he did that, and then I don't know how much later it was, the lines froze again. Pop went down, they got a wire from here, and a wire from there. Zap, he blew all the fuses. He saw the guy, hook up 2 wires, and he just did that. I don't know how he didn't electrocute himself.
of course, I put in that shower downstairs by
Toilet.
himself, and then he had that contraption on the water heater that he added copper, this during the war, added copper tubing inside the furnace, back out, and then over to the water tank.
Oh,
And he was using the heat from the furnace
to heat the water.
to heat the
How the
water.
hell he ever figured that one out, I'll never know.
I don't know how he molded those pipes, because they were only that far apart, and they had that big bend on it, and how he got it, I don't know.
Let's see. How about that driveway?
Oh, the bricks.
Brick driveway?
Well, you had a part in that, did you, when you came on leave?
We would help a little bit with that thing, but even to tackle that thing, and even to say, well, I'm gonna do that, I couldn't get enough energy today to even say that.
Or to keep the grass out.
Yeah, yeah.
He would weed that thing, get on a stool and sit there and weed it.
He was wearing out the bricks, putting them in, taking them out.
And I don't even know if it was us. Was it one of your kids?
Jeff was the guilty one.
Yeah,
There was a fascination with those wine barrels, those kids, yours, and they always wanted to go down there. And then Pop had actually made a little trench in the concrete from the
Barrel
barrels
to the sewer.
into the drain.
Yeah.
Then Mom was the one that saw the wine flowing in that little creek. And she never let Jeff forget about it. And
When they saw that they were losing all that wine, I thought, oh, they're losing
it
their.
was precious wine.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Well, my favorite thing is when they drank a bottle of wine, and they said, Tony, go fill it up. I'd fill it right to the very top, but I'd drink the neck down to where I could drink a little bit before I took the bottle, because you didn't want to bring a bottle up that was that low. But
Well, I can remember working in the area, going there to eat, and he wanted to, he said, go down and get a bottle of wine. And I went there, and the thing exploded and went to the ceiling, and got all of the wine marks on the ceiling. It was rather embarrassing. But
I would have.
What room? Where?
in the kitchen, we were going to drink this, you went like this, a boom, and that thing exploded like champagne.
Wow.
He didn't have a good explanation for it, but
That wine always was ice cold. It was right from the barrel. It was.
well, but he always refrigerated his wine. He never drank it at
Yeah.
room temperature.
He liked it cool.
At 30, And never ever would he drink wine
No.
before going to work. Nor would he ever stop at the beer joint at the end of the street like everybody else did. And they got into that, I'll buy you, you buy me, and there's 8:30 by the time those guys were leaving that beer joint.
But after he retired, he'd always have a little glass at lunch though.
That could be, yeah. Yeah, that's right, he would have.
Or even if you stop, I stop over to play cards with him, to spend a little time with him. I'll always have to have a little glass of wine.
Yeah, that's it.
In high school, I worked all the different theaters downtown, between usher and doorman. But the one thing that was always consistent, the paycheck went to them. You did not keep your money. And I don't, to this day, I'm not even sure if I ever got any of the money.
And in the Army,
In the Army.
your money went directly to her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think the upshot of that is that when we had built a house and we needed dining room furniture, she kind of said, here's your money, and bought a dining room suit. Because she'd been holding on to it, and it was a substantial amount. It was a very good dining room suit.
I think we all got our money back.
Yeah.
Room and board.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Eventually.
But we did pay room and board, even
Yeah.
when we worked.
Yeah.
She got the check.
You get the paycheck, you don't even cash it, just give it directly to them.
I remember when I went to work for Goodyear in the summer in the cafeteria. And Sam Smaldino got me the job. It was during the war. And I was 15 years old, so I had to lie about my age because they would not hire you if you were 16. So I worked the morning shift, like 6:30 to 3 or something like that. And my pay was 75 cents an hour or $32 a week. And I would hand the paycheck over to Mom. I'd get $1 for a bus pass and $1 for my pocket. And that's all I saw that paycheck.
To make this last all week.
Oh, yeah, yeah. But working in the lunchroom there, there was always the soft drinks, there was the packaged stuff that you could eat. You didn't have to really go out and do that, but you got $1 and a bus pass.
Doing these, but Pop would not let me take a job.
Is that right?
I could cut grass, but as far as going somewhere, taking a job, nope.
Yeah, I worked in my sophomore year and junior and senior years because jobs were so plentiful, they were so available. But one thing is that we never got to caddy. Mom would not let us caddy
No.
because she thought that was not a good environment. Couldn't caddy for the first time I ever caddied for money. Perry Campbell and I had a day off of school and we went to Portage and I caddied for Denny Shute. That was the first time I ever caddied, I didn't really know what the rules were, but here I'm...
Probably was the last time you ever caddied too.
Well,
Then he probably said, get that guy's name, I'm gonna put that up on the wall.
yeah, I think we got $5 for that day carrying a double.
Talking about first jobs a while ago, I think the first job I can remember when a fellow that I went to high school with, he was working for a guy that canned pimento olives. And all he did is he'd buy a big barrel of olives from Spain or Greece or whatever they came from. Get the little pimento olives, there'd be a barrel in the garage, and he'd have just a zillion little jars. And we'd fill these jars with pimento olives, and we'd eat some. I ate pimento olives till it came out of my ears, but there's no health inspection, no nothing. We just fill these jars, put the cap on them, and they fall on the floor, pick them up, put them in the jar. I mean, it was a real hand-to-mouth operation. I don't remember what we were paid, but it couldn't have been like 10 cents an hour or something like that.
Yeah, my first job was over at Companion's house on Marview Avenue, kind of across from Nist and Wise. And I was picking weeds, which was, and I got a dime for it, which was not a very enjoyable job.
Yeah.
My first job was working at the, it's called the Colonial Theater, the movie theater, on Mill Street, which now is nothing but a parking deck. And from there I went to the Strand movie house, and that's gone. And then from there I went to Palace. Now I like Palace.
He closed a lot of movie houses.
Yeah.
Well, you got me in two of those jobs. I got a job at Colonial through you and at Strand.
Is that right? Another guy I remember at Oaks. What name was it? Oaks. Millard Oaks.
Yeah.
He was the manager. And I was the doorman. And my job was, when it started getting dusk, make sure the lights get turned on the outside. Well, I didn't turn them on. He came in. And he's yelling and screaming, I don't know how in the hell we're going to possibly win this war with these dummy kids that we have around here that can't even turn the lights on, this and that. Hey, no big deal, you know. I'm working here for 25 cents an hour. What do you want? You know?
He was God, though, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he was God.
Yeah.
Just what we learned chipping around the house. Going
Yeah.
around the house from hole to hole.
At our golf course.
We had
And those holes were very big, if I remember correctly. They were just,
we had five holes, 5 cans
Yeah.
buried in the ground alongside the driveway. And that went from the sidewalk in the front to the garage. So what could that be? 30 yards?
yeah,
But that was our own private little golf course.
from the apricot to the peach tree.
And you try to keep it out of the Ross's fence. The hedges.
I think it was Hochberg that came over and gave us a handful of clubs.
I don't remember. I know that I got a baseball glove from him, from Ray
I
Hochberg.
think I got a handful of golf clubs from Hochberg.
Is that right? One of my favorite stories, the first car I ever owned. This was
Was this a Chevy?
a
Chevy coupe?
This was a Chevy coupe, blue. I think it was a 39, I'm not sure. But this was right after it got out of the service. And you couldn't buy cars. I mean, there were none manufactured, so of course the wear and tear on cars, which made them fewer and in between the sell, people just didn't have to sell. And I was working at Goodrich part-time, going to school, going to U. And this guy says, you want to buy a car? I got a car. I sell cars. And I said, you do? He said, I got one car left. I said, good, I'll take it. What do I know what it is? Well, this was, and like I said, I think I remember it to be a 39 Chevy. It probably had more holes than some of the houses that I saw in Europe with machine gun bullet holes in the houses, rusting out. It was missing a fender, bad paint job, but it was a car. And it was the only car I could get. And I remember to this day, $250 is what I got. And I was so proud that I was able to get this car. So I drove it home and I drive that thing into the driveway, turn off the engine, go in the house. Hey, Pop, I bought a car, look. What? Well, I bought a car, come on outside, take a look. Okay. He comes out, and if anybody's personality changed 100 degrees in 2 seconds, it was him right there. He says, what the hell do you do with this piece of junk? And I said, piece of junk, I get that son of a bitch out of here, I don't want to hear it. Now I have to get rid of it. I mean, the master has spoken. And what am I going to do with it? Am I going to sell it to somebody else? So I go back to the guy and I said, I can't tell you why, but I can't take the car. Can I get my money back? He said, I'll give you $200. So I lost $50.
Well, I remember that you had another Chevy kind of coupe, and I had gone to the service, and I came out like almost 19 years old, and I had never driven a car. But I could get a driver's license because I was a veteran, full-fledged veteran. So you're going to teach me how to drive your car, and took me out, and I got behind it and shifted a couple of times, and then going up the hill at St. Martha's there, without shifting down, the car just stalled. It got your attention. It took a while to figure out the gears to...
I put a lot of miles on that car. The garage, the front sidewalk, the garage, the front sidewalk. That thing, I put a lot of miles going back and forth, just up and down the driveway. That's how I learned to drive.
That might have been that car that I bought for Ray Flash.
It was a blue Chevy coupe, if I recall, something like that.
I don't know, but that was a Dodge.
That would have been interesting if we would have taken a picture of every car that we owned.
I've said that more times than you can imagine, that of all the different cars that I've had in my lifetime, I wish I'd have got a picture of every car that I've had.
I probably have about 3, and one of them was that Model A.
I inherited that from you.
Pardon?
I inherited that.
Oh, the car,
The
yes.
sport coupe.
Yeah. Yeah, that picture makes it really look like a great car.
Yeah.
Of course, that thing really, it didn't have any support in the back. The whole back rested almost on the axle.
Yeah.
And Tony got it and put in some struts there and built the thing up.
I sold that to Bob Vogt
Oh, did it? And that,
for $75. Since we're on the subject of cars, I have to go a Joey on this. The best car I ever had was that one with Bill Fitzgerald. Unbelievable. I don't know if you know the full story, but as I understood, he went to a junkyard, hauled out a 1937
or 8.
37 Dodge, I think it was. And apparently he took everything apart, completely restored that car. I mean, it was his...
The motor in particular.
Yeah, I mean, the rest of the car was immaculate. I mean, you start that car up and you couldn't hear it. I mean, he took the motor, every piston and rod and everything, rebuilt it. You could not hear that thing run. I mean, it was just, you know, why I ever got rid of that car, I would never know.
It never really burned oil or anything.
Nothing. I mean, it was as perfect a car as you could
And,
imagine.
and he went to the library and got a book. And
And learn all
he
about
did
it.
it, yeah.
Completely restored that car. It was unbelievable.
Hmm.
Sooner or later, I ended up selling it, but I don't know why. I think it'd be worth $1 million today.
The one thing that I think I probably have to say with Mom is that she probably was the best cook that you could possibly find. But then back in those days, all those women were really, really good cooking. And they were good enough cooks that what they cooked in those days, the kids today have never heard that anybody ever eats such a thing. Calves brains,
Chicken feet.
Chicken feet too.
chicken heads,
Well,
chicken intestines.
we used to buy chickens from Mr. Cox that worked with Pop down at Goodrich. He had a little farm in Talmadge, and every now and then he'd bring 3 chickens for $1. And then they would
Yeah.
dress them. The way they dressed them, I guess, they cut the neck, let it bleed, and then took it over to the big pot of hot water. And then, and as soon as I saw that going on, I'd always go upstairs. And Mom would try to get me down there, and I wanted no part of that operation.
I was
But,
the one that always had to help kill the bunny rabbits.
Oh boy, that was terrible.
And I always remember Papa used to say, "Salud a me, paradisa te," which is hell to me, paradise to you, being the bunny. But as a kid, to stand there and hold that, we had tough times, didn't we?
I never realized that bunnies could make that much noise when you
Yeah.
kill them.
and
Yeah,
we'd get them
screeching.
from Mrs. Ross next door,
But
where they had
Whether you
a
wanted to.
whole garage full of bunny pens that they
raised.
raised. I wonder what they did with them. They probably kept a lot of them in their own family, I would think.
I don't know,
But
they'd lose
I'm
one every once in a while, wouldn't they?
did we eat a lot of rabbit or just occasional?
Occasional.
Yeah, I think. Chicken was the big thing.
I used to buy rabbit for Pop when I used to go to Columbus,
Yeah,
to go to this market. They had
French market.
dressed.
All dressed and nice.
Yeah.
I can remember we came home on weekend leave, and we would get in the car in Washington DC, and we would drive at night and get home Saturday. And then Sunday, we would sit down for the meal because we had to leave at 5 o'clock to go back to Washington to get there before, we were able, I think it was either 11 or 12 o'clock. And I can remember on this Sunday, Mom put in front the spaghetti and the meatballs, and I just kind of just leaned over there and had the odors come up. I mean, it had been such a long time since I had any food that tasted like food, and it was just unbelievable, all of that flavor that was just coming up.
You could walk into the house anytime, day or night, and food would pop up on the table. You know, like when we want something, you go in the refrigerator and you're looking for this, looking for that, trying to find something to eat, but when you stop there, everything would just appear. I don't know how in the hell she kept food sitting there. There would always be cold cuts, melon John, there'd always be something there to eat no matter what.
Yeah.
Well, I think Pop probably gets the credit for that because I think he's really a connoisseur of foods. I mean, he really knew food.
Well, he was buying, you remember he was buying salami? And you didn't go say, give me a pound of salami. No, give me a whole salami. And when you have it, when you wanted something, you cut yourself some, as thin or as thick as you wanted. And the same thing with the cheese. You don't have sliced cheese, it was a chunk of cheese. And
How about the wormy cheese?
the wormies you go and buy.
Well, I remember going to 3 stores to buy potatoes with him. We'd go there, and, big bag of potatoes. No. And we'd go to another store. He just knew the food and what was good. And of course, he had that little butcher block downstairs that,
Yeah,
I don't know if he made it himself or something, but it was really crude. And it had all kind of lines on it. I mean, those lines, some of them were like 1/4 inch deep. And I think because of hitting down with the hatchet
chopping up
and
meat and
stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he really knew food.
As kids, do you remember the picnics
Well, yeah.
that all the different Italian societies put on with their food,
Fireworks.
fireworks at the end? Fireworks at the end, darn near broke all the windows out of the buses.
Yeah.
They were so loud, and they would have a couple of companies compete against each other to make them even more scary.
Yeah.
But those picnics were
Yeah, they would physically drive you to the buses. And you would, final burst of fireworks would just drive you. Everybody would start running to the buses because it was terrible.
the societies had the buses that took you to the park, so you didn't have to have a car. And back in those days, it was all family stuff. It was built around getting the family together.
Family shared too at the picnics, people would
Yeah.
kind of table hop and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
you want a bottle of wine here? Here's a bottle of wine for you.
We went to Roma Park, we went to Pardee Park, went to Brady Lake, maybe Tremonti's, but I wouldn't even know where one of those places is today. I have no idea.
Chippewa Lake.
Well, my mom said you got lost one time when we were going to the buses after the fireworks.
Is that right?
Yeah, and that was a pretty big problem.
But unfortunately, she found
Yeah,
it.
right. She didn't make many mistakes, but that was one of them.
I always remember up here in Montrose, it used to be called the Ramada Inn. And Friday night, they had a seafood buffet. So we took Mom and Pop over there. And Pop loved his anchovies. Needless to say, when he saw the anchovies, he filled up a plate. I don't mean 2 or 3 or 4, I'm talking about a bunch of them. Didn't care about all the other stuff. And that's really all he wanted, was anchovies.
Which was not a good idea, I don't think.
No, not that much.
Of course, he used to buy tubs of them, tins of
Oh,
them,
yeah, the big
and
tins.
salt, and eat them all winter long.
And he probably didn't know what the other stuff was. He didn't know what shrimp was,
No, it didn't.
but he would recognize anchovies, that's for sure.
I had gone to the service, this was after the war, and everything was kind of ragtag. We were in a training thing, and people were getting discharged, people coming in and all. And we had some cooks, and undoubtedly, they were the worst that there ever was. This one cook was trading food out for favors out of the back, never had enough food, and the food was terrible. They kind of closed down the training station where we were. We got transferred into Arlington, Virginia to Fort Myers, Revolutionary Wars. Had great parade grounds, all of the buildings were brick. I mean, it looked like really a great place. And they got transferred over to military police, but that beside the point, because I was not a military policeman. We would go into the mess halls and they had nice shiny concrete floors, and then these cooks would say, how would you like your eggs? And we'd say, I like our eggs. It was like a hotel, like a resort hotel. Just 2 weeks later, our cooks took over. And they had an army investigation of these cooks. They were so terrible. Everybody was complaining, and here these guys were the ones that we had been living with all this time. And they got in there and they had that place upside down.
No kidding.
The officers were complaining, and so they got rid of them. It took a while to get back to the way it was.
I'm going to tell the story about, I was in France. And we were stationed in France. I can't tell you right now, maybe we'd been there 2 or 3 weeks. And we're eating, the K ration and stuff like this. And behind us was a farm that I got to talk to some young lady there. And with a little bit of French that I knew, I could converse a little bit with her. And somehow or other got in this, get her make a chicken meal for us. So I told my buddy and I said, tonight we're going to have chicken. Don't tell anybody else. We're going back to have chicken at the farmhouse. What farmhouse? Well, we couldn't go in the farmhouse. We had to eat actually in the barn. But she's a young lady. I don't know, she probably couldn't have been 15 years old at the time. And she brought out this chicken. Boy, that thing looked like something for a king. We broke off this, and that was good. And then next thing we knew, we broke up the body. There's all the guts still inside. I said, oh man, I think she may have found this thing dead someplace. The appetite was gone. The atmosphere was gone. The food didn't taste good. But from what started to be one of the greatest meals in my life, turned out to be almost ready to throw up, So, but you never know for sure where she ever got that chicken from. But she's not going to let the owners of the farm know that they're missing a chicken.
I was probably called an acting sergeant, but I was a PFC. That was my highest pay grade.
What were you? When you reached your highest potential?
PFC.
PFC.
Because it was what you got paid is really what you were. But we were training guys, through basic, so we always had sergeant stripes on our thing. But
I was a PFC in France. In our medical unit, there weren't that many ranks in there. We had a corporal, we had a sergeant, and the rest of us were either nothing or PFC. So I was a PFC being in France, and one day I made a mistake. And I went into a bakery that was still open there and bought a loaf of bread. I said, boy, I gotta have something that I can chew on. I really like. Brought it back to this big house that we were in. Put it in a footlocker. That night we had an inspection. We opened up the footlocker. You're busted, you're done. You lost your PFC, your good conduct medal. You've lost everything. I said, oh, okay, let's start over again.
A loaf of bread.
All because I bought a loaf of bread.
Well, you talked about a scary event in our neighborhood. For some reason or other, Nick Lionetti had dropped off his youngest daughter, probably two and a half, Dorothy, at the house. And I don't know if Mom went with him, but Pop was supposed to be the babysitter. And he was back there working in the garden. And he looked around and he says, "Where's Dorothy?" And we said, "Where's Dorothy?" And we went down to Delmar to look for Dorothy and hollering Dorothy and Dorothy. And we had a bike at the time, and we started riding in the neighborhood, and Pop was really afraid. I mean, he really got shook up. I don't know what the particulars were, but she had walked over to York Street or Talmadge, crossed Main Street, and she was on the other side of Main Street. They lived down on Cauga Street, and she was going home. And I think Pop aged about 20 years that day because for some reason she just got out and started walking, and nobody had realized it. And I think there was enough commotion of people in the neighborhood that saw this girl by herself, and that's when we found her.
Were you guys around the time that these guys raided the house? I'm trying to remember when it was.
Yeah.
I wasn't, I never did get the gist of it, although they were like,
Federal people.
yeah, they were looking for
Yeah, I
bootleggers.
was there, yeah.
They searched the house and up and down, and I don't know what the hell they were doing.
They were looking for whiskey. And one of the neighbors had said that Pop was making whiskey. And of course you were allowed to make wine for your own consumption. And I can remember Pop saying to those guys, "Hey, would you like a glass of wine?" And they came up empty-handed. And I think it was one of our WASP neighbors, for some reason or other,
It was a
wanted to
little scary having them barge in and
get Pop in trouble.
Someplace or other we must have bought a goat.
for a Sunday picnic.
And I can't even imagine right now how we got it home. That's not the most important thing. We got this goat that we're gonna have for a picnic, like I say, cooking it. I imagine we probably put it on a spit and rotisserie it. And we had it down in the basement. Somehow, whatever reason, this goat decided to want to go up the steps, out the door, and
Freedom.
running up the street. We have to catch this goat. So it's either us being on the spit or the goat, one or the other. But this thing got away, and you can't imagine how the urgency overtook us to find this thing and catch up with it. Those things can run pretty good. They're not, They make a lot of the zigzags all over the place that we finally got the thing back home. But,
I recall you were the one that tackled it and got it.
Is that right?
That was my recollection.
I don't know.
It wasn't me.
I don't think I was involved.
Well, it wasn't me, but
No.
I'm pretty sure you're the one that ran it down and tackled it. And
Yeah, time-wise and everything, I can't even tell you when, what, or whatever, but, you know,
it was taken down to the basement to go through the ritual of sacrificing itself for a picnic.
at Carroll Street Farmers Market, I used to hate to go down that place. When Pop wanted to buy vegetables and stuff, we'd go down to Carroll Street Farmers Market, and if the guy wanted three cucumbers for 25 cents, I'll give you a dime. Now I'm starting to walk away. I can't listen to this bartering, and I just didn't understand the art of bartering for food, you know. But everything that we bought had to be negotiated. You want 2 chickens for $1? I give you 75 cents. Oh. That was, to me at that time, it seemed to be so embarrassing.
I think at the time you just come home on the bus with a couple of chickens.
Oh, hey, that's when you have a basket. You get on the bus.
Larger provision.
You get on the bus empty with an empty basket. When you're coming home, the chickens are in that thing or something's in there, and these things are clucking and making all that noise on the bus, and you're, as a kid, you're embarrassed.
He and Leo would go out getting mushrooms, and nobody would ever disclose where this location was. They were afraid to tell people. And if they brought them back, nobody would ever know, you know. And he wanted to go up by Portage Country Club. And at the time, there was only the one house on the Portage path there. And of course, the golf course was right behind it. So we kind of zigzagged through some people's backyards there and got there, and he had his little basket. And at the time, they were just little, like quarter-size, half-dollar-sized orange mushrooms. And he was picking them. And of course, I could see the guys golfing on the golf course there, and I kind of turning my back to them because I didn't want to have any appearance. And my dad just kept picking, and finally he says, okay, you got enough. So he had this peck basket of mushrooms, and we bring it home, and he's got these mushrooms and 10 golf balls. He picked up golf balls while he was picking the mushrooms, and I was kind of standing guard over there by the, just waiting to get yelled at by people playing golf or the neighbors. But another time we built a house on Sharon Cross, and for some reason I kind of got behind the house there, and I kind of sniffed a little bit, and I said, man, that smells like mushrooms. And lo and behold, I walked in the backyard, and there were some logs, and there were mushrooms coming out of them, and there's some trees and mushrooms coming out of them. So I pretty much ran home, and I said, hey, Pop, you want to get some mushrooms? Well, yeah. He said, well, let's come by Leo, too. So we went to come by Leo, and man, they had a field day. I think they had almost 3 baskets full of this. This is probably their biggest day that they ever had, and they had these mushrooms. I went back there a dozen times, never again. So it's kind of, I think, the atmosphere, the humidity, the heat, that brings them out, but, I mean, and Leo was just beside himself. He
And the thing
never,
is,
never had seen somebody.
Mom would be able to cook mushrooms, with mushrooms, with mushrooms, with nothing but mushroom, and it's delicious. You don't have to add meat or anything else with it. It's just a meal of
But we would eat them the second day though.
Well,
Well, not
she would string them out. I mean,
Well, I'm talking about Pop would eat them,
yeah.
and if he made it, then we'd eat them.
we were not allowed to eat it the first day.
No.
If they survived,
Then
we
we
would
were
have some the
okay.
next day.
Yeah, but if you had mushrooms, you had them,
Oh.
4 or 5 days, because
Mhm.
they knew how to string them out.
Never,
Even dried them out and then put them in water and
never
Yeah.
tasted mushrooms like that since. You know, we say those were the good old days, right?
Yeah.
We could go on a lot more with a lot more uninteresting stuff. Uninteresting to anybody but us.
Well, I was hoping they'd just start going uphill there instead of downhill.
Well, now that you say that, it reminds me of something that to this day I can hear that little screeching alongside the drive, alongside the garage. When I was cutting grass one day, I saw some little things in the weeds, and I thought they were rats or mice, and I went to get a hoe, and I started chopping down in there. And what I was doing, I was actually killing little bunnies. And to this day, I still remember killing those little bunnies that never had a chance to make it, all because I didn't know what the heck I was doing.
Yeah. And I was raising them, and I think they turned out to be mice. I didn't,
No, that all fits, so everything's okay now in the universe. So it's,
yeah, I evened it out somehow or other. I remember when we were talking about cars, I remember we'd have the holidays, we'd go to Gumball Leo's house and stay overnight and visit back and forth. But when it was time to go home, Leo had, I don't know, it must have been a Model A, and he was the only one that had a car that we knew.
Right.
And he would drive us home. We had to go up Talmadge Hill, but he'd have to detour down Spalding, go around the block, get up ahead of steam, and get enough speed to climb Talmadge Hill. Couldn't just turn the corner and go up. He had to go all the way around and then gun it and just barely make the top of the hill.
You had to consider he's taking 6 people up a hill,
And he had
just
to get,
that added weight to.
he had to really get it going to get up the hill.
like what I was saying earlier, they're made by a part of an animal that you can't even buy now. All the people that lived that I know of, that never ate them all those years, but EPA or somebody says, "Hey, it's not good for you, so you can't have any."
Kill for those right now, they were scrumptious. You should ask Jimmy Esposito if he could
I
find
gotta
something
ask
like
him,
that.
yeah.
Maybe he has a connection somewhere. Those are super. But they would all be made up ahead of time before the mom and the ladies would make them up and take them out to the parks.
They would sell them out for part too, like, like they sell hot dogs today. But today,
Not,
But at those parks, everybody took wine out there. They took, jugs of wine. But we had our own family picnics, and we would go to Del Durbin and Stowe,
yeah,
and they didn't allow any liquor in there, and Pop would put his wine in a Coke bottle
Yeah.
So he had some Coke bottles with his wine because he had to have his wine. But don't forget that lunch was right before taking the nap
Yeah.
on the swing.
Well,
He had a little 4-foot swing there that he would take a nap on every day with his knees kind of up to his chest there.
He's in a fetal position.
And that swing came in kind of handy with the kids because they would get on it and they would swing, particularly the girls. They would swing all the way back and almost like they were going to touch their toes on the ceiling on the other. And I thought to myself, if you only knew how many times that thing fell down.
Yeah. Yeah.